I don't want to talk about it, but when literally there's nothing else being talked about in the news, it's kind of hard to avoid. So yeah, we're coming back to the Pixel 4. No, I'm not reviewing it. In today's video, I'll be discussing the hypocrisy I notice in the tech community and among many YouTubers. And for the record, this isn't everyone. This is a portion of the tech community. There are some people that I think are criticizing the Pixel 4 fairly, and I will not be one of them. You guys know that. Either way, though, I want to talk about some of the things that I think iPhones often get criticized for that everyone seems to give the Pixel a free pass on, despite the Pixel 4 being kind of the Jerry Gergich of the smartphone world.
I don't even think I can...
At least that's how I see it. For some of you, it may be the Toby Flenderson, and I'm the Michael Scott, just constantly bashing it unnecessarily, but...
Why are you the way that you are? I hate so much about the things that you choose to be.
Either way, it's what's on my mind today, so here we go. Several huge issues I saw people kept bringing up with the iPhones because everyone wants that incredibly good 5G so that they can use the Ookla speed test app to its full potential. So many people were pointing out that none of the iPhones had 5G and that's going to be a massive step backwards for Apple. None of them brought that up with the Pixel 4. I never saw people complaining that there was no 5G variant, even though there are Android phones coming out with 5G support. Now don't get me wrong, I still think 5G is stupid. I also think the people that think it causes cancer are kind of stupid because they're not doing much research on it, but either way, this is a double standard I find very noticeable. Another big one was people criticizing that the iPhones did not have bilateral wireless charging. True, this might be in part because there were a lot of leaks this year leading up to Apple's going to have bilateral wireless charging. So when it turned out that it didn't have it, a lot of people were upset by that, but at the end of the day, Pixel 4 didn't have that either, and I never found that many people bringing that up. It was a feature everyone wanted for the iPhones, but then once the Pixel comes around, everyone's like, oh, that's okay. You get a pass, but you don't need bilateral wireless charging. Just try to get more than 5 hours of screen on time. Another big criticism often brought up with the iPhones is that it's the same thing every single year. If you ignore all of the changes Apple made with the iPhone, then there's no changes. Oh my God, you're so right. How have I never thought of that? But yes, if you just judge a phone's changes by the way the front of it looks, first of all, you're gonna get very bored over the next decade because the front of the phone, there's very little they can really do. But since the notch is the same size as the notch from 2017, a lot of people just say it's the same phone, they just either slapped the camera on the back or updated it a little bit. Who cares about doubling up the battery and better water resistance and better speakers and better display quality, better CPU speed? Who cares about all that? It's basically the same because I looked at the front and it looked the same as before. Well, I guess people just want change, even if it's not necessarily a good change, because Pixel 4, coming from the last generation, was barely different at all, and in many ways I think you could argue it's worse. As I've talked about in previous Pixel 4 videos, there's actually a lower screen to body ratio on this year's Pixel 4 compared to the 3XL last year. Now I know we don't like the notch, but why are so many people treating Google like they've somehow removed the notch and applauding that by going backwards with design trends? Like, you can correct me if you think I'm wrong here, but do you honestly think that if Apple would have made an iPhone 10 without a notch just by adding bezels where the display used to be, and they just made a thick forehead iPhone, do you think everyone would be like, yay, you removed the notch, Apple, good job? Of course not. You would imagine all those YouTubers that are used to criticizing Apple saying, wow, Apple made it worse this year. There's less screen than before. There's a lower screen to body ratio. This is a step backwards. I'm not asking for Google to somehow embed their cameras underneath the screen. It's just, if all you're gonna put on the front of the phone is 2 cameras, like you did with the Pixel 3 XL, then maybe follow people's advice and just go with the camera hole tech, because people seem to like that with the Galaxy S lineup. And I know you can't fit your crappy face unlock that's gonna take months to fix in a camera hole, so why don't you just go with an ultrasonic fingerprint reader, which more people seem to be going with. Then you can use the unsecure face unlock for the quick things. I'm not saying you have to duplicate Apple directly. In fact, Google, I'm telling you to go the complete opposite direction. Apple's truly the king of Face ID tech right now, so why don't you just pursue a different direction like a fingerprint reader, which can hopefully be a tad more secure than your version of face unlock? Oh wait, now the S10 can be unlocked with any finger. okay. Just don't do what Samsung did, all right? As long as the phone doesn't explode, it can't be that bad. Another thing I found a lot of people doing with previous generation iPhones, not necessarily this one, but back with the iPhone XR, you remember people saying how depressing it was because it has a lower pixel per inch than what we're used to, which basically means that the iPhone 4S screen and the iPhone XR screen are basically the same, right? Because they have the same pixel density. Doesn't that depress you? Well, you never see those same channels that bring that up for the brightness on the Pixel 4, which is a huge oversight. And honestly, given the terrible battery life performance, I'm kind of confused given how low brightness the Pixel 4 screen really is. Google doesn't bring it up on their website, of course, because they're embarrassed by this and they don't want you to know about it. But if you look up the hard facts on how many nits the brightness is for both the Pixel 4 and 4 XL, it's not even above 450. It's at around 440 nits for an $800 and $900 smartphone in 2019. To give you guys perspective, the iPhone 5, the iPhone before biometrics with its LCD display, which many of us would still consider depressing by today's standards, that had over 500 nits on its display. No, I'm not joking. So before everybody goes and makes claims about how depressing the XR display is, why don't you bring up that today's smartphones have brightness almost 3 times better than the Pixel 4's brightness? Anything depressing about that to you? I also find a laughable amount of YouTubers completely skipping over the fact that year over year the Pixel 3 to the 4 got a smaller milliamp hour battery. People complain about iPhone batteries for years, and now suddenly when Google is guilty of the exact same thing, no one wants to bring that up. No one wants to say, hey, why are you making the battery life smaller while also making a more power demanding display, somehow with its crappy brightness settings? I don't understand. Everyone just kind of sweeps it under the rug, and I think honestly the main reason this is happening is because it's from Google, and Google is a huge company. They own YouTube here. They send out review units to tons of YouTubers, which there's nothing wrong with. I'm just saying when a lot of channels, particularly ones that may not be very big, when they get free review units, obviously they're gonna review them because they're like, hey, I got a free phone. I know, I was part of Team Pixel in the past. That went very, very well. So what you have is Google flooding the market with Pixel videos, even though I feel like if a phone with the exact same hardware as the Pixel 4 came out from any other company, most people would see a few headlines for it one day and completely forget about it the next day. The only reason we give Google so much attention is because it's from the rich family who owns the site. It's like you're going into private school and the owner's kid is also going, and that kid has the fanciest watch and he has the coolest backpack and the slickest shoes. So obviously he's gonna be the popular kid because his last name's above the school. Everyone's giving him attention because he has name recognition. Everybody knows who that kid is. So hey, if you can be friends with Richie Rich over there, that means you get to go to the really awesome pool party at the end of the year and the birthday party with the best birthday cake you can possibly imagine. So of course, everybody's giving it a fair shot. Everyone's excusing things that it's missing out on, despite the fact that DxOMark, Google's used to be crowned source of photography and videography performance, is giving the OnePlus 7 Pro, an almost better phone in every conceivable way than the Pixel 4, a higher score on photography and videography, which most fandroids out there would say that's the biggest selling point with the Pixel. It has the best camera, its camera is amazing, and that's why you buy a Pixel. Well, Google used to trust this company for their reviews, and that company's now saying OnePlus 7 Pro, a phone that's cheaper, has a higher storage option, more RAM, same refresh rate display, except even higher screen-to-body ratio, and probably a more secure form of biometric. And did I mention cheaper than the Pixel 4 by nearly $300? DxOMark says that camera's better. So, of course, now we all disregard that and say, oh, well, you know, DxOMark, they don't know what they're talking about. You know, I don't think we should trust them at this point. Of course, you trust them when they support your argument, but as soon as they stop supporting your argument, that's when you leave them at the door and say, let's not pay attention to them anymore. That's exactly what Google did. That's what the fan base is doing. And by the way, at the end of the day, I do not think the 7 Pro has a better camera than the Pixel 4. I mean, sure, if you want an ultra-wide lens, then yeah, maybe. But in regards to photography performance, I'm sure that the Pixel 4 can probably churn out a more color-accurate and sharp image than what the 7 Pro has. But that's not the point. My point is that at the end of the day, all these different smartphone cameras that are coming out this year are near identical in regards to photography performance. So to act like one camera has an advantage because color sharper than other color, while you're completely ignoring ultra-wide 4K at 60 microphone performance, front-facing camera performance, and not to mention, if your phone is really, really good at taking night mode shots, but it's gonna die before it gets dark at the end of the day, then what's the big advantage? I guess you gotta keep charging it then. then. Anyway, that's the bias though. That's why I think everyone gives the Pixel 4 so much attention. If it came out from Oppo or it came out from LG, no one would give a crap about it. It would be overlooked and be like, oh, there's a 2019 smartphone that has a tiny battery and a dual camera on the back. Oh, air gestures, cool. Yeah, I'm just gonna pass on that one. But because it's from Google and because the review units go out to everyone, we have to give this several weeks of media attention, which personally I despise. So that's why I'm not reviewing the phone, I'm not gonna buy it, and why I'm going to intentionally try to not talk about it in future videos. But no promises, obviously. If it's a dry news week, I may come back to this because it feels like every hour I discover something else dumb about it. Let me know what you think about the hypocrisy on YouTube by hitting me up over on Twitter or joining our Discord. This is your Apple Sheep here, and tailosive is short for explosive tales. Take care.